Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. You ready for another episode of My Bigfoot Sighting? Alright then, let's do this.
Seen a bunch of rundown no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, love's in the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland roads where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah.
If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to mybigfootsighting.com.
My Bigfoot sightings happened in Pennsylvania. It was August 2004. I went to pick up my son at his friend's house, who lives in a rural area. It was probably 5 miles away from my house, maybe 10, somewhere in there. I picked my son up. It was starting to turn dusk. We rode on Footmill Road, which is now a horse track. But in 2004, when my sighting happened, it wasn't a horse track. It was a dirt road, a very not well-traveled road. It was very sparse. I mean, there were a couple residents here and there on this road, but not, it was few and far between the residents. As we were traveling down this road, we noticed a black figure on the left side of the road as we were traveling. It was probably about 250 yards in front of us at the beginning. As we got closer, it crossed the road in front of us at probably about 170 yards by the time we were getting to it. And as we got closer, we noticed that it crossed the road in 3 steps. It was moving pretty quick, and there was tall grass on the right side of the road. It hopped over a ditch, landed on the other side, and was holding on to a tree branch. Well, as we got closer, we noticed how big it was. At first, we thought it was a black bear from the distance, and then the closer we got, we realized it was not a black bear. It was very large. My estimate was 7.5 foot. My son kept saying, "What is that, Dad? What is that, Dad?" And I said, "I think it's a black bear," trying not to scare him. But I knew that it actually wasn't a black bear. It was very large. It was very wide, very hulking, a little bit longer hair, maybe that of a Irish setter, but black. Maybe a little bit shorter than the Irish setter, but it still was longer than just stubble. It stood on the side of the road and grabbed a branch, and as we pulled up to it, I stopped, perpendicular to it. It was directly across from us. My son had the better view of it, looking out the window. I looked out the window and saw it, and I noticed a huge bicep. The bicep was very muscular, holding onto the branch with its right hand. And at that moment, it ducked underneath the branch and took off through the woods. Now, we heard branches snapping and twigs snapping and leaves and stuff like that, but it was moving really fast. I mean, really fast through the brush. And we sat there until we did not hear it anymore. We looked a little bit and we still couldn't see it. I decided to drive home because we were both very shaken because of this experience. We got home and I told my son, he said, "What was that, Dad?" And I said, "It had to have been a Bigfoot." Now, my son has had experiences. He ended up driving shortly after this experience. He was 15 at the time and then turned 16. And he used to take that road back and forth to his friend's house. Now, him and his friend have sat on the side of the road there and had rocks tossed at them. Now, this place, the Footmill Road, is about a half a mile from a garbage dump. There's a stream that runs down through there and a railroad track that runs probably a quarter of a mile away from where this sighting took place. And people around this area have reported it over and over. Sightings of Bigfoot type creatures. We went investigating. A friend of mine was in Pennsylvania Bigfoot that I didn't realize he was until I told him about my sighting. And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm a field reporter for Pennsylvania Bigfoot. I'll take your story." And just so happens he was my friend. And so we went back there and measured the grass. This was before the horse track was built. But we went back and measured the grass and measured the length of the branch that he was holding on to. And he came back with a measurement of 7.5 to 8 foot based on the grass, because when I was looking at him, I couldn't see his waist down because the grass was that tall. Now, the grass was about 3.5 to 4 feet high in spots. And the spot that he was standing on, or it was standing on, because I don't know if it was a male or female, although I did not notice breasts. I only caught a side view of the face and the body. The face was very flat, like a human's, not like a pug or anything, but like a human's. It was very flat, and it had a huge trunk. I mean, the trunk of this thing was enormous. It was just bulky, hulking, very, very muscular. I mean, the bicep, like I said, I saw a definition through the fur. And let me back up a little bit. It was almost dusk, but not, it was plenty light. I mean, it was just starting to turn dusk, but there was still plenty of light. So this was probably around 8 o'clock in the evening, Eastern time. And it was kind of traumatic for my son and myself, being the first sighting we've ever seen. Now, I have heard of Bigfoot. You know, when I was little, I went to see The Legend of Boggy Creek. I've seen a lot of Bigfoot movies, you know, Patterson Gimlin film, Patty. I've seen that. I've seen a lot of things about Bigfoot, but nothing prepares you when you actually see it. I mean, the fear, the goosebumps, because you're seeing something that shouldn't be there. I used to think of Bigfoot as an entertainment value. It was very entertaining to watch stuff about Bigfoot, being that I would never be in that situation. So I thought. But that night in August 2004, I was thrust into that situation by seeing what we saw. And my son to this day recalls it vividly. We still talk about it. And it's just an experience that we'll never forget. It will never leave us, because what we saw, we could not explain. I mean, now I can explain it. I know I saw Bigfoot because of everything I've read, everything I've seen over the years. I know that Bigfoot is real. Now, I think it was a month later, maybe in September, I was taking my son's friend home from our house, and I used to drive back and forth on Footmill hoping to see it again on this road. And this night, it was probably about 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday. I'm not sure exactly when in September, but we slowed down 5 miles an hour. We're driving on this road, had the windows down, and there was 4 of us in the car. I was driving. My son was in the front seat, and 2 of his friends were in the back seat, one of which we were dropping off at his house, the same friend that I had brought my son home from the previous August, or the August month earlier. As we're driving down this road about 5 miles an hour, I'm driving, and I felt a whack on the back end of the quarter panel, rear quarter panel, a smack. That's what it felt like. And I thought my son's friends were playing a joke. And I said, guys, knock it off. And they said, we're not doing anything. We're not doing a thing. So as I'm driving, I end up speeding up eventually, taking the car home. The next morning I come out to look, and there's a huge, what looks like a hand smacking the rear quarter panel. And right before that happened, I thought I saw a flash of something in the mirror, in the rear view mirror, go across the back of the car, but I thought it was the boys in the back moving their hands or something. But it smacked, and then I didn't see anything. But that alone was kind of unsettling. So then, probably 15 years after my sighting, I met up with a group of guys that we go out looking for Bigfoot now in Pennsylvania, in Erie County. That's where I'm from. These guys are just everyday people from different walks of life. We have one EMS, musician, just everybody's from everywhere. So we go out and we look in Erie County for anything Bigfoot related. If we get any sightings, we go out and investigate the area. The first time we were out in northeast Pennsylvania, almost to the New York state line, and we were investigating out there, and we took a side-by-side out with us because it was out in the woods a ways. So we're out there, and I had a parabolic microphone, a dish, for your ears. And we're out there listening, and I have it on, and I'm listening, and I keep hearing something walking, and it sounded very bipedal to me. And it just kept slowly walking towards us. And it was me and another investigator out at this site. And it kept getting closer. And I took the ears off and I handed them to the other investigator. They put them on and they said, yes, there is something there that is moving towards us. And it sounded big. It was snapping twigs and just stomping kind of. I didn't feel the ground shake, but it was moving towards us. So we sat there for about another half an hour waiting, and it stopped. Nothing. So we decided to pack it up. As it was about 2 a.m, we decided to pack it up. So we headed back out to the side-by-side, hopped on it, and the other investigators started it up, and we had to turn around to kind of do a 3-point turn. And as we pulled up and started backing up, there was a huge banshee scream. That's the best I can describe it. It was so loud, the hair on my arm stood up, the hair on the other investigator that was with me, the hair on their arm stood up. We turned it off, and as we turned it off, it just finished it. It was so loud. It was directly behind us. It couldn't have been more than 20 yards, if not closer, because it was that loud. It just resonated through our bodies. We immediately hopped off. I got out the parabolic microphone and we went back at it, but there was no other sound there. Now, this place that we went to is pretty dense. There's some open spots where we parked the side-by-side, but I mean, back in the woods, it's pretty dense. It's some thicket, some big, huge oaks and pines and just bigger trees, generally. Some saplings, but mainly larger trees. There's a ravine, which we've gone down in. We've been out to this location quite a few times because usually when we go out there, we get something. Something happens. I mean, very few times do we ever strike out at this location. That's why we usually go out there. There's been totally strange occurrences out there, as far as we're out in the middle of the night like I said, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're down in the ravine and we hear what sounded like kids playing in the middle of this. It probably goes for about 5 square miles, this wooded area. In the middle of it, at about 1 or 2 in the morning, I can't remember exactly when, we hear what sounds like kids playing, giggling, talking. It sounds like kids. We can't figure it out. We have thermals, so we lit up the area. We could not see anything. That was echoing down the ravine. And it's a pretty large ravine. It's about 200 foot down and about 400 foot up the other side. So it's a nice size. It's a struggle to get in and out of it. Let's put it that way. But it's very, very, very eerie out there at times. I mean, you'll be sitting out there and you'll feel like something's watching you. Now, like me, I try to go chase, and I know this is wrong, but I try to go chase what I see or hear because I want to see it again so badly that that's what I do. And it's unfortunate for me because I know that's not the best way to find or see another Bigfoot, but for me, I just want to see it so badly that that's what I do. And I get yelled at a couple times, from the guys, but for the most part, we're all experienced in this. It's just when certain things happen, sometimes I'll take off after it. I just have that in me because I want to see it so badly again. Now, at the same location, we've been on top of the ravine, or let me take that back. We've been about halfway down on the ravine sitting, scanning the ravine. There's a small creek that flows through the bottom of the ravine. So we sit on the side and we've had stuff happen. I mean, I've had something come running by, and unfortunately I didn't have the thermal on at that time. We've had a pretty large sized rock get tossed down the side of the ravine from up above, about 20 feet to our left. And that was crashing and thundering and hitting all the trees and knocking the saplings over. It was quite large, and we measured it. It was about 2 feet tall, and it was about 2 feet circumference. I mean, it was a large stone, and it weighed approximately about 350 pounds. So it was very large. We could hardly pick it up between two people. So then we had that happen. They have a tree stand out there because it's somebody's farm. There's a tree stand sitting out there. And we go out and we'll sit up in that and view everything. And so I went out, and it was one of the nights where we were striking out. We didn't really see anything or hear anything. And I climbed out of the tree stand, and I'm standing on the ground, and I'm just looking around, and all of a sudden the whole ground beneath me went boom, like shook. It felt like something dropped right next to me, and the whole ground shook, like heavy equipment moving ground. It felt like that. It felt very it felt like it was man-made, because it was so loud, or not loud, but I felt it through my body. It was like, it almost made me move up in the air, because the thump was so violent. So yeah, we've had all kinds of things happen out there. We've seen eyes shine. We've had one of the other investigators said they saw something moving through the woods. That alone it's very, very scary out there at times. It makes you wonder what's going on. Now we've investigated other areas too, but that's like one of our favorites, because things happen there. It's just different. We've went to Greenfield Township. We've been all over pretty much Erie County investigating, Springfield, a couple other places. But one time in Greenfield Township, there was 3 investigators on this, and we went into the woods investigating because there were sightings around there. So we decided to take 3 of us. Well, out in the middle of the woods, there was a tree stand about 40 feet in the air. So I decided the best place to be would be in that tree stand. So I climb up in it, and the other 2 investigators were off about 20 yards from me on one area. And I came back to this tree where I saw the tree stand. I climbed up it, got inside of it, or not got inside of it. It was a flat tree stand and with a bench on it. And I sat down, and it had railings on it on all sides. So I was sitting there. And when I found the tree stand, it was still somewhat light out. Well, as the night got on, it was pitch black. I couldn't even hardly see my hand in front of my face. And approximately 15 to 20 yards behind me, a tree got pushed over. And the other investigators, we carry walkie-talkies, and I heard this tree get pushed over. Now, I'm facing the opposite way that the tree gets pushed over. So it's a strain for me to turn around and try to see what's going on. I didn't have a thermal with me. The other investigator did, but he didn't see anything because the brush was so thick in between that and the tree. But the tree got pushed over, and we heard footfall going away from the tree, like a bipedal loud stomp. It was just boom, 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 boom. As it was going away, we heard it less and less. And some twigs were cracking and stuff as it was moving. But it moved away from us, and we just sat there, and the other investigator came over the walkie-talkie and asked me if I heard that. And I said, yes, it was about, 15 to 20 yards behind me. Well, we investigated it, and the tree was a medium tree. It was probably, if I had to guess, it'd be about 10 inches, a decent size round tree. We measured it, but I do not recall how big it was and everything. But it wasn't a sapling. It was a decent sized tree that got pushed over. And it wasn't dead. It was still alive, but it was cracked at the base of the tree. Well, a little bit up from the base, probably a foot off the ground was where it was cracked. We looked for hair samples, nothing. Footprints, we didn't see anything, but that wasn't a big thing because it hadn't rained in probably 3 weeks, so there wasn't a lot of soft ground around it. So we went back there actually and looked for more evidence after it rained, and there was nothing. I mean, it was basically, it vanished. I mean, I don't know what it was, but the only thing I can positively say is bears don't usually push over trees, and if they do, they usually leave claw marks. Humans can push over small trees, but not a tree that size. It was a larger tree and it, like I said, it wasn't dead. It was quite alive, and it got pushed over, landed down there, and it was, I'm trying to remember how tall the tree was too, because it was about 10 inches at the base. And I want to say about 13 foot, 14 foot, something like that. Right in there. Like I said, again, I do not have measurements with me. We do keep track of, stuff like this. We've also come across trees that have bark stripped from near the top all the way down on each side of the tree. We haven't found what other researchers have, the nests or anything like that. We haven't found any nests. We haven't found any cover that the Bigfoot have supposedly made. Even to this day, though, I'm still a skeptical believer because I don't take everything that happens out there at face value. I try to dissect it. Well, could this have happened? Could snowfall have created a tree break 8 feet off the ground? Could, whatever happened? That's what I try to do. I try to investigate it to the best of my ability. And let me give you a little bit of background. I am in law enforcement, so I do try to investigate these things and keep it within reason for me to keep my own sanity. I kind of keep all this stuff and try to dissect it individually. Try to say, well, what else could cause this besides a Bigfoot? Because, as I've said, I know Bigfoot exists. I've seen them, but I want to know more about them. I actually want to see another one, and that's my lifelong ambition right now, is to see another Bigfoot. I'd love for that to happen. Well, we've had several other encounters. We've experienced grunts, howls, tree knocks, the usual stuff, whistles. And by far the strangest thing I've ever seen, where I was in the middle of the woods, different place. I'm not exactly 100% sure exactly where this was, because it happened probably 8 years ago. But there were 2 dots, and it looked like an eye shine, but they were about 12 inches apart, 10 to 12 inches apart. They were pretty wide, and it looked like eye shine, but nothing was shining through the woods. It was dark, and they'd go up, and they'd go down, and then there was a bush in front of it, and it'd come around the bush, and then it'd go back. And I'm sitting there again without a thermal, because I like to go out and sit in the dark, and if I carry a thermal with me, I'm looking at the screen and I can't see what's around me. But then the disadvantage to that is, if something happens, I'm not able to record it. So the other guys have thermals. I do not, but this is the way I do it. So anyhow, comes out around the bush, and they're staying together, like a head, like two eyes on a head, just going back and forth. And then they'd go up and down and then come back around the bush. Well, I sat there and watched them for about 15 minutes in amazement, like, what is this? And then they started coming towards me. And they got probably about 5 feet in front of me, and I have a spotlight that I lift up. It's right on my side. So I took it out and I blasted it, and there was nothing there. So it put the spotlight away. And as soon as I put the spotlight away, I look, and they're behind the bush again, moving back and forth. Only this time they're a little bit dimmer, and they move back and forth and back and forth. And I called on the radio, and one of our investigators came over, and he tried to record it with his night sight. Well, he claims that he saw it, and he was recording it, and all of a sudden the lights disappear, probably about a minute after he started recording. So he got a little bit of it. Well, then we're talking about it, and we walk out of the woods, and there's a metal barn that's right next to us where we all parked our vehicles. And we're standing there talking about our experiences in the woods that night, the different things that had happened, wood knocks and the howls and the lights. And we're standing at our vehicles talking and logging all this stuff down. And at the side of the barn, a big crash, wham, hits the side of the barn. And we hear like rustling in the brush, running away. And I whipped out my spotlight, and I couldn't see anything. Whatever it was took off and kept going, moved. I mean, it was moving pretty quick. And it was the area where it hit was about 5 feet up on the garage. We could tell by the direction. We were all probably, 10 feet from the side of the garage, or the barn, I should say. It was a bigger, like, pole barn. And we were about 10 feet from the side where it got hit. And it was all made of all metal. It hit it and took off. And we tried to find footprints. We saw the matted down grass and weeds and stuff like that of it, whatever it was that ran away. But we couldn't find it. Now, a human could have done it, but the area right beside the barn where this happened was very thick with large prickers, stuff like that. So whoever ran through there would have got tore up. And we also looked for hair. Like I said, we looked for footprints, but it was too grassy to see any actual footprints. It was kind of unnerving. It's almost like Bigfoot plays with you at times. It's like it kind of messes with you, like, haha, you're in my house. That's the way I feel about it. I just think Bigfoot is a real creature, in my opinion, because I can't prove anything other from what I've seen, what I've heard, the different experiences I've had. I honestly believe Bigfoot is a living, breathing animal. It's out there. And I'm telling you, for a fact, I know that Bigfoot is out there.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest, please go to mybigfootsighting.com and let us know. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.
Seen a bunch of rundown, no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, loves and the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland rows where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out. I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. The sound of a memory brings me back to the bluegrass playing on my dad's 8-track. He's pick a man had been through it, getting through the day on Scruggs and Skags, bucking hay bales to those Tennessee jams. There's no other way that I do it. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out. I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Something going backwards and double time. Getting to the soul and the drumming, low Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out. I don't run from banjo music. Pace of the city life drives me wild. The only tune is the cars rushing by, with the bass on the stereos booming. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out. I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Something going backwards and double time. Getting to the soul and the drumming, low Kentucky style. Those are the anthems drumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out. I don't run from banjo music. Something going backwards and double time. Getting to the soul and the drumming, low Kentucky style. Those are the anthems drumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm, ride chicken porch swing, mama's best sweet tea kind of sound. I don't